Before I begin, I would like to thank Gikeusz for allowing me to use his surveys for the purpose of this video. Dziękuję bardzo, pozdrawiam pana I pańską widownię. Gikeusz is a Polish YouTuber, primarily making Gothic related content for his community. I will include the link to his channel in the description below. Today I will use some of his surveys and the results to discuss the most picked choices in the games. Just one heads up about the surveys. The surveys used in this video will be in Polish, thus anyone who isn't Polish will have to just trust my translation skills to know what's going on. Number 1. New Camp, Old Camp or Swamp Camp in Gothic 1. The first big decision in Gothic 1 is which camp will you want to join. There are 3 options: the Old Camp, New Camp and the Swamp Camp. The Old Camp is the first big location that you will come across in the game. It is also located in the center of the map, so you will run past it quite often. This is the former seat of power that overlooked the colony before the prisoners overtook the mines, who is still trading all with the king for luxuries such as women or alcohol. In entire Gothic 1 you only see like 1 or 2 women in the game, and they are both employed by Gomez. I wonder what happened to the previous women that were employed by Gomez. Could it be that there is a hidden dark secret about Gomez that he just doesn't want us to know? The Old Camp is also the home of the Magicians of Fire. The second settlement is the New Camp, which lies in the west. This is the new home for anyone who did not get on with Gomez and his cronies. These chaps want absolute freedom from the king and the ore trade. Their plan is for all the ore excavated from their own mine to be used by the water magicians, who want to use the magic in the ore to create an explosion. They are hoping that the explosion will be so big that it will actually destroy the barrier and then free all the prisoners. The camp is led by Lee, the main rebel, and Satyrus, who is the leader of the Circle of Water. The camp is fully self-sufficient with their own production of food and alcohol, and they also get traders from the swamp camp who are selling the swamp weed. They've managed to build new buildings with the help of the most skilled architect in the colony as well. Lastly, the swamp camp in the east is more of a cult than a camp. You will recognize all the novices, gurus and Templars of the swamp camp as they are all bald and they all wear loincloths. They also stink of weed. However, they do have pretty cool tattoos. Unlike the other 2 camps, they are not that concerned about the ore production. Instead, they believe that getting high enough will actually allow them to communicate with the Sleeper, who is the god. And through a group seance where the whole camp will be under the influence, the Sleeper will awaken and therefore will destroy the barrier to free itself and his believers at the same time. It seems that the only production that happens in the swamp camp is the production of swamp weed, thus they don't really have their own sources of food or anything else for that matter. What they do is they travel to the other 2 camps, sell the weed and buy stuff like food and alcohol etc. for their own use at the camp when they get back. So the question is, which camp is the most popular among the fans? And as it turns out, it is the Old Camp. This is the most logical choice, to be fair. It is a key location for many of the quests and it's also placed in the center of the maps, and because of this all the locations that you need to go to seem to be a bit closer than say having to go there from all the way from the east or west. It is the easiest camp to navigate as the tutorial section of the game makes sure that you get to know all the inhabitants of the Old Camp that matter, and these include the merchants and the trainers. Out of all 3 camps, I think the Old Camp also has the most memorable NPCs as well, such as Mud or Snaff. And even though Gomez seems like a sociopath in a seat of power, the inhabitants of Old Camp seem to be the most level-headed ones out of the bunch. And that's with the guards trying to rob you of your money as well. Number 2, the best companion. So we spoke about the best places in Gothic 1, but what about the people that are actually living in those camps? These are the 5 figures that reappear in all of the games. Diego is the first essential character that you will find in the game. He is the head of the Shadows, which are the militiamen in the Old Camp. He is our teacher around the Old Camp, making sure that we survive our first days in the colony. And as the boss of the Shadows, he is a very influential man, and so if you want to join the camp, we'll have to be his friend. And as we know from the previous entry, a lot of people want to join the Old Camp. Milten is a fire mage based in the Old Camp, and he is the most friendly member of the circle, compared to other mages who are either too busy in their work or just too self-centered to engage with anyone not versed with the arcane art. His attitude and curiosity make him one of the most interesting characters in the game. Lester is a novice in the swamp camp, and like Milten, he is the most welcoming character in his camp. He helps the hero join the cult by advising the player on how to please the gurus, which is a massive help if this is your first playthrough. Lester is also our leading guide around the swamp camp, which is still tricky to navigate even after hours of exploration. Gorn belongs to the rebel faction in the new camp. You can recognize him by his masculine mustache and hefty axe on his back. Gorn's actions are most often inspired by his brim rather than brain, so there are many instances in the series where the player has to save him from his predicament. So who is the fan favourite? The results show that Diego is the favourite character in the game. He appears in all of the games as an excellent advisor to the hero. Generally, he serves as the father figure in many ways. Diego explains the colony's dangers to the player and provides necessary training and advice to ensure survival. Thus, his no bullshit down-to-earth attitude secured him first place in this category. Number 3. Cantar or Sara. Moving on to Gothic 2 now. Cantar is one of the first characters the hero meets at the start of his journey in Gothic 2. He is a sketchy merchant running his business right on the edge of what we call legitimate business practices. The first obstacle on the hero's path in Gothic 2 are the town gates of Innos. The player can get through the gates in various ways, from wearing a disguise to convincing the guards that you work as a herb collector for the local alchemist. However, Cantar offers another solution, which is also the easiest one. He offers a fake entry pass into the town. He gives the pass away for free, only expecting a favour down the line, and regardless of whether you accept the pass or not, he reappears later on in the game in the marketplace of Innos. There, he offers another deal. Plant an illegal weapon in another merchant's inventory, then go to the militia and tell on the merchant, which will end up in the merchant being locked up in the jail for allegedly selling weapons to the bandits. Once this is done, the stall will be free, and Cantar will be able to move in on that stall. So you can either do this, or you can go straight to the militia and tell the militia on Cantar, which will result in him being locked up instead. So this is the question, will you either do a bad thing for a reward, or will you do the right thing for potentially no reward whatsoever? The results of the survey show that most players pick to help Sara, and thus do the morally right thing. Good on you, Gothic community, I'm pretty sure you didn't want to join the Thieves Guild anyways. Number 4. Templars, Mercenaries or Fire Mages. This is obviously a big one for Gothic 2. Which out of these 3 factions to join? The Templars, the Mercenaries or the Mages? The Templars can be found in the town of Innos. They are the soldiers of the Order of Innos. They wear the badass shining armor, and can use some magical runes which makes them pretty versatile. To join the order, the player must first become a citizen of the town. This can be done by finding a job, which is not a small task because there's a lot of requirements that you need to meet first. You can then join the militia, which eventually will allow you to progress into being a Templar. It is a good faction to join, considering that Innos is a good hub area, with interesting NPCs, trainers, merchants, and a lot of places to visit. The only downfall of the faction is that most Templars are not that interesting to interact with, but everything else is pretty much a plus. Since we are talking about the Order of Innos, it makes sense that we should talk about Magicians of Fire next. While the Templars are the arm and sword of Innos, these guys are the physical messengers of Innos' power and will. The monastery is located in the middle of the map, and that could serve as the middle point for many of the journeys. The novices and magicians lead a solitary life in said monastery, which stands on a rock in the middle of a pond, surrounded by a wall of mountains. The only entrance to the monastery is via a high-hanging bridge. The hero can learn how to master fire's magic by studying the arcane levels, spells and alchemy. As a magician, every single aspect of building a character is a well thought out process, and once you learn all the high level spells, you can easily decimate everything on the map. Lastly, the mercenaries in the east, who are now working for the landowner, who is rebelling against the king. This faction is very appealing to anyone who played Gothic 1, as many mercenaries were previously in the new camp. After their escape from the colony, many have settled in the countryside as owners' private army. The monsters in the fields, bandits in the surrounding mountains, and forests full of beasts make for a perfect area for grinding. Additionally, the landowner pays each mercenary daily wages, so it's an excellent way to make some money. Later on in the game, this faction evolves into dragon hunters, who have the coolest armor in the whole game. So which faction in Gothic 2 is the player's favourite? According to the survey, the Mercenaries and the Dragon Hunters are the most popular faction in Gothic 2. The countryside is an exciting region on the map to explore, with plenty of forest and mountains to visit. And while most of the Mercenaries are a bunch of dicks, becoming a Dragon Hunter is so fucking worth it. Number 5. The island of Innos is split in an internal conflict between the king and owner. So the question is,
whose side are you on? The rebelling farmers or the king?
The answer is...
I'm for the peasants.
Ha! That damned warmonger Onar'll drag us all into the grave.